This episode is brought to you by NutriAbility, where we offer specialized nutrition services for children and adults with special needs, from personalized meal plans to parent and group education and intervention strategies. We're here to support their health and well-being. If you'd like to learn more, visit our social media and website at nutriabilitykc.com. Hello and welcome back to Glow and Go. I'm Carla, nutritionist, wellness coach, autism advocate, and most importantly, a proud mom to a young man on the autism spectrum. This podcast is a space where we talk honestly and practically about inclusive nutrition, neurodiversity, and what it means to support individuals with special needs from a place of love and dignity. And today's episode is personal. Well, because earlier this week during a press conference, the US Secretary of Health made a statement about autism that has left many of us, and including parents, caregivers, professionals, and individuals with autism themselves, feeling deeply hurt, disappointed, and frankly, alarmed because this is alarming that the government is coming up making these type of statements. And while I have a lot of emotions around this, I want to use this space not to rage, but to educate, reflect, and hopefully help others understand why these kind of statements can be so harmful and why we must respond with truth, humanity, and strength. Before we begin, I want to invite you to subscribe to Glow and Go, this podcast, turn on the notifications on Spotify and YouTube, and please share this episode with someone who might benefit from this information. You can also follow me on social media where I share more content about nutrition, wellness, and special needs. All the links are in the episode notes. And if you find this episode valuable, please consider leaving a review. It helps this message reach more families and caregivers who need it. Well, let me tell you what was said. This past week, the new Secretary of Health gave his first public address. And what should have been an opportunity to uplift communities quickly turned into a painful moment for families like mine. He referred to autism as an epidemic and made claims that children with autism will never work or pay taxes or go on dates or even use the bathroom unassisted. When personally, I know many individuals that are capable of doing this with autism, and I also know people without autism that are not even doing some of those things. I invite you to take a deep breath this moment. Because this kind of language, especially coming from someone in a leadership position, doesn't just reflect misinformation. It diminishes lives. It erases individuality. And it tells millions of autistic individuals and their families and friends and supporters and caregivers and advocates that they do not belong. What autism really looks like. Autism is not a single story, it is a spectrum. It's wide, diverse, and it's beautifully complex. That's why it's hard to understand sometimes for people that do not want to overcome their ignorance. Some individuals require 24/7 support, yes, but others live completely independent. Some speak through devices, others are public speakers. Some build routines at home, and others run businesses. As you can see, the spectrum is really wide. And what one person can do, probably the other person cannot do, but this other person is capable of probably something amazing too. And yes, many of them do fall in love, do pay taxes too, unlike other people, and do go to college, lead products, raise children, advocate for themselves, are innovators, and many of them thrive. My own son can be a proof of this potential. He has been using the toilet independently since he was a toddler. He might not grow up and just pay taxes because we're building a business together, one that he will own and potentially run with the help of his family. He might not need to apply for a job because he'll be creating his own and potentially creating jobs for other people too. And yes, he has expressed the desire to date, get married, and become a father. And we, as his family and circle of support, will be right there helping him pursue that life, the life he wants, with love, patience, and determination. And this might not ever happen either, and that is okay too. We'll be here to support him in any way he needs. But the real numbers are out there too, and you can go and check them out. And but here I'm gonna show you some numbers and explain what they really mean. Well, first of all, autism is not a tragedy. It is not a threat. It is a neurological difference that affects how individuals experience and interact with the world. And that world includes food, communication, learning, and relationships. According to the CDC, 1 in 36 children in the US is now identified as being on the autism spectrum. That means autism is not rare. It's part of our communities now. We can see it at schools, workplaces, and our own families. And yet, systems continue to lag far behind in meeting those real life needs. But let's look deeper. Only 10% of children with autism receive specialized nutrition services in school or the healthcare system. That means that 9 out of 10 autistic students and people are navigating school cafeterias, feeding programs, and learning environments without any nutritional support that takes into account things like sensory aversions, medical conditions, or feeding therapy goals. Second, many families are navigating these challenges alone, unsupported by the system, and they are not being heard. Whether it's dealing with feeding issues, meal planning, or even figuring out how to introduce new textures to their child, most families never receive any guidance. They're left to Google or probably guessing or probably what their mothers have been teaching them about feeding for years and years. And that comes with carrying an emotional and practical weight without a care team behind them to support. Third, there are still few professionals trained in autism informed nutrition care. This makes hard for families to access registered dietitians or therapists who truly understand the intersection of neurodiversity and nutrition, especially in under resourced or bilingual communities. For example, when my son was diagnosed, they told me he could never probably be bilingual, so we should not talk to him in Spanish. My parents, who do not speak English, didn't take that advice. They continued speaking to him in Spanish, and now my son is bilingual and able to switch the code whenever he needs. Well, when public leaders use outdated, fear based language to define autism, they only reinforce the very systems that exclude, isolate, and dismiss the unique needs and abilities of those children and their families. That's why these numbers matter, not to create fear, but to highlight where we are doing wrong and we must do better. And to remind everyone listening that behind each statistic is a child, a parent, a dream, a family, and more importantly, an opportunity to do things differently. Let's reframe the narrative from deficit to dignity. And instead of calling autism a crisis, let's call it what it really is, a call to action. Instead of assuming limitations, let's start talking about possibilities, talents, and contributions. Because when we focus only on what someone can't do, we completely miss everything they can and are capable to do, and everything they're already doing to make this world better. So let's ask better questions. How do we increase access to early support and inclusive education? Because when children receive individualized support early on, their chances of thriving academically, socially, and emotionally multiply. It's not just about therapies or services, it's all about inclusion as a mindset. Also, how do we improve healthcare navigation for families? Why does it have to be so hard? Right now, too many caregivers are lost in paperwork. Referrals take too long, and then denials come, and there's also incredibly long wait list. What they need is a team-based approach with professionals who communicate, respect cultural values, and make space for questions without judgment. And finally, how do we ensure that neurodiverse individuals are seen, supported, and valued? Not just in classrooms, but in hiring practices, media, public policy, and community events. Value means offering accommodation, not as a favor, but as a right. And here's a powerful truth. Some of the world's most meaningful contributions have come from individuals whose brains work differently. Probably a lot of people haven't understand this just yet. For example, Temple Grandin, an autistic professor and animal behavioralist, transformed the livestock industry by designing humane animal handling systems. Her ability to think in images, something often described as visual thinker's gift, allowed her to solve problems that others couldn't even perceive. She didn't overcome autism. She thrived because of it and because people made space for her way of thinking. Another often mentioned figure is Steve Jobs, co founder of Apple, who many believe was on the spectrum. His intense focus, outside of the box thinking, and unique way of engaging with design and detail help revolutionize the tech world and change how we communicate, work, and create today. But let's be honest, not every autistic person is going to be Temple Grandin or Steve Jobs, and that's okay too. We don't need every autistic person to be a genius or visionary to deserve respect, access, and opportunity. What we need is a world that stops expecting autistic individuals to stop being who they are just to make others feel comfortable. We need a society that adapts, that offers equality in access, and that values the different ways people think, feel, connect, and contribute. Because inclusion isn't asking people to change, it's about changing the system, our attitudes, and environments so everyone has a fair chance to thrive. By reframing the narrative from deficit to dignity, we give every person, regardless of ability, the chance to be seen, not as a problem to be solved, but as a human being to be supported, respected, and most important, celebrated. Now, let me tell you what my son's autism means to me. His diagnosis to me has helped me having a shift in my perspective about the world. Autism wasn't just my son's diagnosis, it was the door that opened a completely new way of seeing the world. It taught me that not everything has to look the way I expect, that milestones, communication, love, and connection don't always follow the timeline or the structure society sets. I used to think differences were problems to fix. But over time, I realized those differences were just reflections of my own ignorance. And from that place of discomfort came the most important shift of all, curiosity backed up by love. I started asking better questions. I stopped trying to help my son in the way I thought he needed, and I started learning to help in the way he actually needed it. His autism has been my teacher, and every step of the way is challenged me to grow, to unlearn what I know, and to show up more fully, not just as a mom, but as an advocate, a professional, and a human. That's why I created Nutribility, because not every family has access to resources they need. Many children are left out of programs. They became just another number for the government and our leaders. That's why I created Nutribility to support those who are often forgotten, those who are too complex for the system, those whose needs are often minimized or misunderstood, or just overlooked. Our family was not destroyed by the autism. We were strengthened. We were made bulletproof. And we're using that strength to make change for others too. And let me tell you something you can do. Whether you're a professional, a parent, a friend, or someone just listening because you're curious to see what I have to say. Your words, your empathy, and your choices carry weight. You don't have to be an expert to make a difference. Sometimes the more powerful thing you can do is simply show up with kindness and humility. Here are ways you can help. Number one, listen to autistic voices, whether online, in books, or in your own life. Don't assume what autism means, and instead listen to how autistic individuals describe their experiences. Number two, speak up when misinformation spreads, like this week. Please speak up, whether in a conversation or in social media or in a meeting. You don't have to be confrontational. You can just gently correct, redirect, and educate. For example, if you hear that all people with autism are unable to use the toilet, you can actually say that autism looks different in everyone and there's no single way to be autistic. Number three, make your own spaces more inclusive. If you have a business, a school, whatever you have, your classroom, your workplace, a clinic, or even your own home, can someone with sensory sensibilities feel safe here? Can someone nonverbal still be hurt? Just think about that. Inclusion isn't about opening the door, it's about making sure everyone knows they're welcome to walk through it. And also, you can ask better questions. This is one of the most powerful things you can do. You can just ask, how can I help make your day easier? It shifts the focus from assumption to support, from control to compassion. It tells the other person, I see you, and I want to be here for you in any way you need. And let me tell you three things you can do about this week. Number one, correct when someone uses hurtful or outdated language. Not with shame, but with education. And instead of saying that's not okay, try actually, there's a better way to say that. Would you like me to share it with you? You can also share stories in your circles, not just stats, but lives. Tell someone about a child you know who thrives with support, or a teen who's building their future despite the odds. People don't connect with numbers, they connect with names, laughter, dreams, and shared humanity. And finally, you can also support a family. That might mean watching a sibling for 30 minutes, sending a thoughtful text, just texting somebody and saying, I hope your day is going well, offering to help with meals. And like I mentioned last time, you can, if you're going to the store and you know your neighbor is pretty busy with their children because one of them has autism, why don't you just send a message and say, hey, I'm going to the grocery store. Would you like me to bring you something? That will be so amazing. You never know what it means to someone to be witnessed without being judged. And let me leave you with these questions just to have you thinking about something. What if instead of changing autistic people, we change how we support them? What if inclusion wasn't an initiative, but a daily mindset? What if today you become the person who helps someone feel understood for the very first time? In conclusion, we cannot control what others say, especially politicians, but we can control how we respond. This episode is for every family who felt hurt this week, for every autistic person who deserves to be seen, celebrated, and appreciated for the jobs they hold and the taxes they pay, and for every listener who's ready to be part of the change. Thank you for being here. Well, that's all I have for you today. Thank you for tuning in and wish you have a really good day. Don't forget to subscribe to Glow and Go, leave a review, and visit my website and social media for more. Bye bye.